homes and community spaces. While the physical losses are immense, the power of community remains, and your attendance directly supports recovery, resilience, and renewal. So, be sure to join us Monday, December 15th, 7 p.m. inside the Graham Goldsmith Theater at the Wallace in Beverly Hills for Soul of the Holidays, benefiting survivors of the Altadena Eden Canyon Fire. For ticket information, just log on to tickets@thewallace.org. That's tickets@thewallace.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580 and the Black Freedom Fund.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Looking forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on thought-provoking Thursdays and Dr. P.L. De Silva. Dr. De Silva has over 20 years of experience in background diplomacy, mediation, and negotiation. He has taught politics, international relations, and several graduate and undergraduate programs at universities in New York, New Jersey, Long Island, and Queen's University of Belfast in Northern Ireland. Dr. De Silva's publications include Postmodern Insurgencies, Political Violence, Identity Formation, and Peacemaking in Comparative Perspective. He's the co-founder with Professor W.D. Lakshman, former Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, and the International War-Related Trauma and Humanitarian Intervention Trust, IWTHI Trust, setting up psychosocial training programs for practitioners serving combatants, non-combatants during the Sri Lanka Civil War. Dr. De Silva, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. Glad to be on the show.
Our very special guest is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, MIT PhD, and check this out, the inventor of email, candidate for U.S. president and polymath, holds 4 degrees from MIT and is world-renowned systems scientist. He is a Fulbright Scholar, Lemelson MIT Awards finalist, first outstanding scientist and technologist of Indian origin, Westinghouse Science Talent Honors Award recipient, and was nominated for the U.S. National Medal of Technology and Innovation. In 1982, the U.S. government recognized Dr. Ayyadurai as the inventor of email by awarding him the first copyright for email at a time when copyright was the only way to protect software inventions. Dr. Shiva, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Great to be here, Jesse. How are you? Good to see
Great.
you.
I am so particularly honored that you are here, and I think we should probably all just take a bow for a moment for just how convenient you've made all of our lives with your thinking and with your inventions. We are so grateful.
Thank you.
Dr. De Silva, I want to ask this question of both you and Dr. Shiva, and it centers around the alienation of the United States globally under the mismanagement of Donald Trump. Dr. De Silva, let me begin with you. How devastating to the national and international reputation of the United States has this mismanagement been?
So the thing is this, under Trump, we have eroded soft power. Soft power is what gives the US its clout. So one of the first things that hurt US soft power was the dismantling of US aid, USAID. And this has huge ramifications worldwide. So that's one. Number two, on the hard power side, look at what's happening in Venezuela. We are losing our allies. The British, the Dutch, and others are limiting or stopping intelligence sharing with us. That's just the 2 examples that we need to bring of how the US is losing friends, allies, and on the soft power and hard power side, but also on the trade front. on the trade front, everybody else who wants to do free trade are coalescing together, and the US is left with a rump of countries. And today, China has a trade surplus of over $1 trillion for the first time. And this is with reducing their exports to the US by 1/3. So just go figure. And the list goes on and on and on. We are losing the plot. The economy is in bad shape. Americans are feeling the pinch. Tariffs are actually an additional tax burden on the US people. And it's the poor who are being downtrodden, and the migrants, higher education, the list goes on. Environmental Protection Agency, you name it, right? And I'm very interested to hear what Dr. Shiva has to say about the health industry. He's an insider, and I've known Dr. Shiva since 1985, 86. It's a long time. And I would like to hear his thoughts.
Neil, as you know, our longest segment for the program is just after the break, where Dr. Shiva can share with us for 20 minutes those thoughts. I do want to ask him, in the minute that we do have before the break, the mismanagement of the global and of alienation of Donald Trump and its impact in terms of U.S. reputation. Dr. Shiva, we have about
I think very briefly. My position on this is U.S. imperialism has become much more naked. In the past, prior to Trump, imperialism had two faces, right? This hard power and the soft power. And I think what the elites in the United States want to do away with is they're recognizing they don't need the soft power. They're just going to be heavy-handed to consolidate power in a much more accelerated way. So I think that's what's happened with the elimination of USAID or defunding of certain programs. Those programs, in many ways, were systems which enabled this hard power to have a friendly face. And I think Trump coming in is saying to the world, I don't need to have a friendly face. I'm just going to do whatever I want with just emboldened imperialism. And I think this has happened because we can probably talk about this after the break, because of the fact that the left and the right in many ways have capitulated to this centralized power against the interests of the working people in this country.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Worldwide with PL Da Silva and our very special guest, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. More when we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Nugget Bells, Nuggets all the way.
Hi, I'm Kylie.
I'm John.
And I'm Garrison.
And a little thing we love about the 30-count Chick-fil-A nuggets
is sharing them when we cut down the Christmas tree.
We will pack the car with gifts. And of course, we go and pick up our family's favorite nuggets.
Every nugget is tasty times quadrillion.
And we get all the sides.
Yeah, the ooey gooey mac and cheese is a big hit.
Share the nuggets, share the joy. Order the 30-count Chick-fil-A nuggets on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Break out the champagne. Everybody can blast.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates our own Keith Underwood, host of the weekend entertainment show Black in the Green Room, on his recent honor at the annual National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Awards. Keith received a first place award presented by the Los Angeles Press Club for his entertainment reporting, and we couldn't be prouder. Congratulations, Keith, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt?
With Civic Tax Relief, they were able to save me upwards of $80,000 that I would have had to pay had I not reached out to them.
Get ready for a toll-free hotline. Take advantage of new IRS tax forgiveness programs that may protect you from IRS collection agencies.
I owe the IRS $37,000.
They have the power to garnish your wages, put liens on your property, and levy your bank account. Civic Tax Relief can help protect you from the IRS.
Civic Tax Relief basically represented me against the IRS. By the time everything was completed, I didn't owe the IRS anything.
Find out about the Fresh Start program that is now available through Civic Tax Relief. Civic Tax Relief's special tax hotline can help you discover all the relief programs available for free.
I would recommend anyone who has a tax problem to contact Civic Tax Relief.
Just call 800-285-3500, 800-285-3500. Don't wait. Call now. 800-285-3500, 800-285-3500.
With the new IHOP value menu, $6 is all it takes to go to your happy plates, where stacks of pancakes with bacon and eggs are just $6 every day. French toast, sausage, and eggs are, you guessed it, $6. And fluffy omelets come with a side of pancakes and only cost $6. Go to your happy plates every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take DayQuil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the DayQuil.
Undo your flu symptoms with DayQuil Intense Flu. DayQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
DayQuil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
Come on and talk with me. Come on and
It's
listen
not for
to
Booking
me.
Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. In this hour is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, MIT PhD and inventor of the email. And just before the break, Dr. Shiva, we were talking about imperialism, more specifically alienation and mismanagement under Donald Trump and its consequences for the United States and for global order. I didn't want to interrupt you before the break, but please take your time and continue.
Yeah, I think what I was sharing was, just to summarize, I think under Trump and with the consolidation of power, profit and control, I think I call it the swarm, which is a distributed, international network of elites. They realized that they don't need to have soft power at all. In their view, the soft power was essentially an expense item on their profit and loss statement. And why even have soft power? You just go all out against everyday working people, wherever they are. And I think that consolidation of power is accelerating under Trump. If we want to talk about healthcare, if we want to move to that, obviously human health is one of the most prominent features every working person faces, right? If they unfortunately happen to get unhealthy or even maintenance of health. And I think to educate the audience, one of the important features of the healthcare system that is not brought up is the collusion between the insurance companies, the large hospitals, and what are called GPOs. And I want to discuss that. And this is not really discussed in much of the discourse on bringing down healthcare costs. What's happened in the current administration with, I call him Booby Kennedy, but you can call him Robert F. Kennedy, and his NIH director, as well as the FDA head, they knew that the American public was extremely upset at the healthcare system during COVID, post-COVID, and people are looking for solutions. And there was a lot of anger. So the MAGA movement brought in these fake fighters, Kennedy at the prominent, one of it who waffles all over the place, but he presents himself to the MAGA base as though he's fighting for healthcare. But the reality is he's doing the technique of claiming he's going after big pharma, but the reality is big pharma is actually going to get bigger because the framework that he's put in place is to act like he's going after big pharma and putting a regulatory framework that's actually going to destroy a lot of the emerging biotechs because they won't be able to afford the framework. Pharma will be fine. But the deception here even goes much deeper. So if you go back in the 1970s, if you just think about perhaps Jesse, you were running a hospital, PL, you were running a hospital, and I ran a hospital. And each of us, and if you think about a hospital has all different types of equipment, right? Beds, bedpans, insulin, right? Catheters, all the things that take to run this hospital. So pillows, right? So let's say each one of us were buying 50 pillows for our hospital, and we were paying, $10 a pillow. At some point, three of us got together and we said, hey, why don't we, instead of purchasing 50 pillows individually, if we consolidated our buying power, we'd be purchasing 150 pillows. So we created people called a group purchaser. And that group purchaser was our agent. And instead of each of us buying 50, he'd go to the vendor and say, look, I got 150 pillows. Instead of paying $10, you get a better deal, right? $5. So GPOs came at the behest of hospital administrators, hospital owners, to try to lower the cost of the equipment. Well, as this progressed, something fascinating occurred. The GPOs flipped the model because they were controlling all the supply of pretty much every item into a hospital. And I believe in late 1990s, early 2000, Congress allowed GPOs to legally give kickbacks to hospital administrators, legalize corruption. So it ended up happening.
Congress did that, Dr. Shiva? Congress allowed them to legally do that?
Yes. So what ended up happening was that GPOs controlled all the supply. So instead of giving the huge discounts that they would do before, they would still give a discount and give a kickback in all sorts of very clever ways. Maybe the hospital administrator would get a nice vacation at a 7-star hotel, right? And so on, to continue not really benefiting the hospital per se and the patients with lower costs, but some kickback to the hospital administrator. They made money. And what's interesting is the GPOs essentially never owned anything. They just owned a contractual relationship, right? So they became sort of the man behind the curtain. And recently, I believe in the last 3 years, I did a whole video presentation on this, 3 to 5 years, actually starting in more than that. In the last 7 years, 3 major GPOs emerged. Those 3 GPOs were bought by the 3 major insurance companies, health insurance companies. So you have no price transparency. So if you go get a bill for some procedure that you did at a hospital, the interesting thing is no one ever actually knows the actual cost, what actually took place. Okay. So during COVID, people were buying all these lung machines, right? What was the actual cost and what was actually being billed, right? So even if an individual gets a procedure done, if they try to go through the costs are massively inflated. So now you would think that insurance companies want lower costs, right? What's actually not true. What's fascinating is the insurance companies actually want to keep costs high because the vast majority of people are paying premiums. Now, the reason you get insurance is you say, oh my God, if I got into an awful car accident, I may have to pay a lot. So I'm going to pay $1,000, $2,000 for insurance a month to protect me against that potential situation. So I'll give you an example. A friend of mine's true example, he had to get some surgery done. The surgeon said, look, if you come inpatient, which means you actually come into the hospital, you're going to have to pay like 10 grand, but just get a hotel room, pay $135, and you just come in and I'll do the surgery. It'll be like a couple grand. Well, the insurance company would not allow it. Okay. So he had to pay 10 or 20 grand. So the incentive is to charge high because the GPOs are making money on each of those transactions. And if the GPOs are owned by the insurance companies, that's another source of revenue. So the insurance companies, essentially with this unholy alliance with GPOs, they're incentivized to make sure that the cost of doing anything is very, very high. And no one has addressed this issue. Okay. The other side on drugs, the similar sister of GPOs are called PBMs, pharmacy broker managers. And there's 3 of them which control the supply chain of every drug to every pharmacy in the United States, right? Probably in the world. Those 3 PBMs have also been bought by the 3 insurance companies. So if you are, you can go after big pharma, and they should be gone after. However, let's say you start a pharmaceutical company and you have a drug. For you to get that drug distributed, you're going to need to create an alliance with a PBM because they own the entire supply chain. So this is what has happened. These 2 sort of men behind the curtain, PBMs and GPOs, are controlling the flow of every item into a hospital. This is why some hospitals who don't want to play in this game, it's not that extraordinary to find hospitals having insulin shortages, saline shortages, because the GPOs are controlling that supply so they could direct supply to the hospitals that pay them their kickback, play, and those that don't. So this is a fundamental back end that why healthcare costs are high. It's one fundamental reason. The other piece of this is the entire innovation process in healthcare. The innovation of a drug. So today, if you think about any drug, what is a drug? Typically a drug, forget the mRNA platform for a second, is a synthetic compound that is synthesized in a lab. And in order for that synthetic compound to find a home, and there's 60,000 of these synthetic compounds, a researcher at MIT will take that compound. I'm giving you sort of the short version of it. We'll throw that compound into a test tube. Let's say it's got cancer cells and says, oh, I see something happening here. They will then go raise money, $40, $50 million, let's say from a VC, to create their company. Then they'll go do animal testing. Now, the test tube testing is called in vitro. The animal testing is called in vivo. That process takes 6 years. If it makes it out of that animal testing, which means it doesn't kill too many animals, that compound drug will then have to get FDA allowance, which takes another 2 years to go into clinical trials. So you're looking at almost 8 years to get it to clinical trials. Okay. And clinical trials are phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 is, a couple hundred people, phase 2 is thousands, phase 3 is tens or hundreds of thousands. And that process takes around $5 billion and 13 years. Okay. And then if you look at the fact that from the time the discovery took place of the drug, they patented it, which is 20 years patent life. So if it takes 13 years to get that drug out of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, the pharma companies only have 7 years to recoup all their investments before it becomes generic. So this process is a very medieval process. It is archaic. It doesn't work, but big pharma keeps moving down that path because the relationship between big pharma and the Silicon Valley Wall Street incentivizes, because at any point as a drug makes it across these processes, you get an uptick in the stock price, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And it's not really the FDA per se. It is a fact that the process itself is old and archaic. But there are solutions to both these problems. One is a horrible innovation model. This is why pharma had to move to the mRNA platform very rapidly, because this other model was failing. If you look back at 2019, Pfizer's revenue, which was at 60 billion, was had dropped down to 40 billion. Okay, so the pharma companies have actually know that they're on a disaster course, and they need to course correct. This is why the mRNA platform was pushed through. It has some considerable issues that have not been tested very rapidly in order to save this failing industry. And Trump and Biden were both part of it. Trump will act like he was against it, but the reality is, his inauguration and Biden's inauguration was both funded by Pfizer, for $1 million. So the reality is pharma has serious problems. So they need people like Kennedy in there, who's great for them because he acts like he's a fighter against big pharma. But the reality is he's creating a regulatory framework that's going to enable new innovations not to be able to compete in a proper marketplace. So again, it gets back to this issue we're talking about later. The elites are consolidating power in multiple ways as never before. And in my view, because there's not a serious opposition to what's taking place, And the people who want to oppose this don't understand the dynamics that I just talked about. So they're talking about solutions, quote unquote solutions, which are never going to really address the root cause issues.
You know, I'm sitting here somewhat amazed because when I think about the average member of Congress for the 17 years that I had the privilege of serving there, they simply cannot wrap their minds around much of what you've said. From the GPOs to the PBMs and the control of every single item that goes in and out of a hospital, and this shakedown operation that essentially allows a corruption legalized to take place. So, Dr. Shiva, I know when we come forward, I want to start with the basic, the least of these, the most vulnerable, and people who need the right to healthcare of equal high quality as a function of it being a human right, regardless of their age from womb to tomb, as a structure of the government itself. The separate and unequal system, or even the system that relies upon a Secretary of Health and Human Services to have his way with the nation's health care, inevitably will leave millions of Americans behind. When we come forward, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We're having a very deep conversation with Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, as well as P.L. De Silva on Worldwide with P.L. De Silva. We're trying to get to the bottom of the nation's health crisis. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
The biggest names, the best conversations. You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Chicago's budget fight is escalating. 27 aldermen are pushing a rival plan that scraps Black Mayor Brandon Johnson's corporate head tax, but raises fees for trash pickup, liquor sales, and Uber and Lyft rides.
We simply cannot risk a shutdown and put the city's financial stability at risk.
Johnson is not on board, and the city risks a shutdown without a budget by year's end. Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is pushing the LA City Council to approve a $4.4 million boost for the LAPD this week to avoid a hiring freeze. She says the funds are needed to hold January's academy class and keep plans to hire 410 officers for the 2025 fiscal year on track. And Michael Jordan's 2311 racing team has settled its antitrust lawsuit with NASCAR. Jordan and co-owner Denny Hamlin had accused NASCAR of operating like a monopoly and restricting team revenue under its new payout deal. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Dodgers manager Dave Roberts was among a select group of people who was asked to speak with UCLA's new football coach Bob Chesney during the interview process. Roberts, a UCLA graduate, had 3 phone conversations with Chesney and exchanged numerous text messages with him. Chesney was introduced as UCLA's new coach on Tuesday. Chesney won't start his new job until he completes his season with James Madison University. James Madison has a first-round playoff game at Oregon on December 20th. By the way, Roberts, the only African-American manager in Major League Baseball, graduated from UCLA in 1995 with a BA degree in history. HBCU Morehouse College in Atlanta is looking for a new head football coach. Former NFL wide receiver Terrence Mathis was fired after 2 seasons. Mathis, who played 13 years in the NFL, was 4-16 at Morehouse. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Whoa, whoa.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. SMP volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an SMP open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caspvolunteer.org.
Aging happens, but giving up what you love, that's optional. This holiday season, start a conversation with your family about building habits that support brain health and keep life fulfilling. With AARP's Staying Sharp, you'll find tools, videos, recipes, and even games to help make healthy living simple and fun. Don't just age, thrive. Visit stayingsharp.org/get started.
Celebrate good times, come on!
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates Malik Books on celebrating 35 years in business.
It's a celebration.
Malik Books proudly houses one of the largest African American and diverse children's books in the nation. This is the perfect time to pick up holiday reads, meaningful gifts, and to support literacy in our community. For 35 years, Malik Books has stood strong in the Black Book Revolution, uplifting stories that heal, inspire, and transform. One reader at a time. Change your thoughts, change your life. Books are the gift that keeps giving. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, congratulations to Malik Books on 35 years of culture, pride, and community.
Are you coughing a lot, especially at night? Are you often short of breath? Are you using your rescue inhaler often? These could be signs that your asthma is not under control. To keep your asthma in check and help prevent an asthma attack, ask your healthcare provider for an asthma action plan. This is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medicines to help control your asthma and to use when you're having a hard time breathing or when you're having an asthma attack. Please don't wait until you're having an asthma attack. Do something about it now. Schedule a visit with your healthcare provider today to make that action plan and take control of your asthma. For more tips and resources on the management of asthma, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk
I'm
with
Jesse
me.
Jackson Jr. You're listening to Day Lunch Club on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Thought-Provoking Thursdays with Dr. P.L. Da Silva, who is an experienced director with a demonstrated history of working in think tanks, industry, and academia, United Nations political and military affairs, stabilization operations, and the private sector, financial services, and oil and gas, in research, political risk analysis, geopolitical strategy, cultural diplomacy, and humanitarianism. He is an extraordinary individual who hosts our program on Thursdays worldwide with P.L. Da Silva and our very special guest today, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. His interest in human health began early when he was a child. He observed his grandmother, a village farmer, a healer, and a practice of Siddha, India's oldest system of traditional medicine. This motivated his future study and research in systems biology at MIT, leading to his discovery of Systems Health, a major breakthrough that provides integrated framework linking Eastern and Western medicine. Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, in addition to his many accomplishments, is the inventor of the email. Dr. Shiva, welcome forward, and PL, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you.
Dr. Shiva, I need to go all the way down to the, from my perspective, for our listeners, to the end user. To expect the Congress of the United States, an institution that struggles with its own corruption, to be in a position to solve the corrupt problem that exists within American health care, which you so ably and articulately laid out for us. It seems to me that outside of the government structure itself, that 350 million Americans who need health care, when do they need it? Well, whenever they get sick, whenever they have an ailment. No one knows what the timing will be for whatever ailment, or whatever illness, but what we do know is that at the moment that we are stricken with that health crisis, we want the health care to be of extremely high quality. We want it to be applied equally, whether we are rich or we are poor. We want the finest physicians, the finest surgeons, the finest medicines that are available to help us resolve our problem. It seems to me in this moment that while we may look at the micro nature of the problem within hospitals and the items that hospital purchases and the kickbacks, etc., that the larger question that needs to be answered in our particular system is this: is healthcare a human right? Is it a state right? Is it a county right? Is it a right for rich individuals who can afford it? Is it a right, increasingly less so, for poor people who cannot afford it? Or whether or not we believe as a civilized nation that all Americans should enjoy the right to healthcare of equal high quality and therefore be empowered with the legal right to sue wherever this corruption takes place and take the entire system to court in all 50 states, in every single jurisdiction, whenever we as Americans find ourselves denied that fundamental right. Dr. Shiva.
Well, I think there's a number of aspects to the observations you've made. I think, let me go to the heart of the issue. What is healthcare? All right. Meaning, what is human health? And when you look at that aspect, there's really two aspects to that question. You see, the modern healthcare system that's practiced in the West came out of wartime medicine. It actually came out of the work of Florence Nightingale, who was more than just a nurse. She was actually a statistician. She was observing the Crimean War, and that soldiers were actually dying when they came to the hospitals. In the 1800s, you went to a hospital to die. They were filth everywhere. In fact, more soldiers were dying when they came to the hospital than dying of wounds on a battlefield. So she had this vision of creating a healthcare system where the goal was to put a soldier back on the field, right? So you had a particular problem, fixed it and got it back, got the soldier back out there, which was you cleaned up the hospitals, you created an environment, hopefully where research would take place, etc. So the key thing we need to understand here was that healthcare system, the architecture was designed for a crisis situation. When a crisis took place, the goal was to take care of that crisis, get the quote unquote soldier back on the field. So that architecture gave rise to steroids and amazing surgery and all this kind of stuff, right? Now that is a very different requirement and an end state than saying, I want to maintain my health. I want to live long. I want to be happy, right? Now, traditional systems of medicine, like my grandmother practiced, or traditional systems of medicine many cultures had, were based on that. How do you live in harmony with your body, right? That's a very different system of medicine. Does that make sense? Two very different. One was to put a soldier back on the field, a crisis management model. The other was to maintain health. What we have in the modern healthcare system is there's an incentive to get you into a crisis mode, not prevention. And then when you get into a crisis mode, you hit the person with artillery, which is very, very expensive. Okay. And some of it actually doesn't work. Okay. There is not an incentive to make the individual accountable for their health and do a series of things day to day, week to week, month to month to promote prevention. Okay, so we have to decide which healthcare system do we want to support. Okay, the preventative model or the crisis model. All the healthcare system is incentivized to be crisis care. And in that crisis model, the goal is never to cure anyone, but to keep treating a quote unquote disease.
To put them back on the battlefield.
What's that?
To put them back on the battlefield.
Yeah, or wait until you're so bad that you are in a crisis mode. In ancient and traditional systems of medicine, every disease had 6 phases. You know, phase 1, where you could cure it quickly. Phase 2, phase 3, 4, 5, 6. Obviously, when you have a big tumor growing, that's in a crisis mode. Okay, you have to hit it with chemotherapy and all these very, very harsh agents. So we need to understand this. This has not been in the public discourse when we talk about healthcare. In the former model, you incentivize the individual to take accountability for their health. What is occurring now is all of the structure is telling the individual not to take care of their health, to outsource it to this thing called the healthcare system, which, as we just discussed in the earlier section, is highly incentivized to keep the costs as high as possible. When you get someone coming into that system, the goal is to milk them for as much money as you can get. Okay? And everyone who's been through this healthcare system will notice that, especially if you don't have any background, you're put into a phenomenon of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You're doing lots of tests, lots of procedures, and you don't even know where the end state is. So so to the end individual, obviously, taking care of your body and having the best opportunity to be well and live long should be a basic right. I mean, I don't think anyone would say it should not be, but the issue is, how are we going to get there? Okay. And I would argue that the current model, even if you gave universal healthcare and you made healthcare free, quote unquote free, it's going to drain ultimately. It's going to come back to the citizens in some form, because the entire structure is highly, highly corrupt. You see, so the cost. So so there is a solution to this, though. Hippocrates.
Just before we get to the solution, because we're going to do that right after the break, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk of 1580 with Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai and PL De Silva. We are going to get to the solutions when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you coughing a lot, especially at night? Are you often short of breath? Are you using your rescue inhaler often? These could be signs that your asthma is not under control. To keep your asthma in check and help prevent an asthma attack, ask your healthcare provider for an asthma action plan. This is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medicines to help control your asthma and to use when you're having a hard time breathing or when you're having an asthma attack. Please don't wait until you're having an asthma attack. Do something about it now. Schedule a visit with your healthcare provider today to make that action plan and take control of your asthma. For more tips and resources on the management of asthma, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
This holiday season, KBLA Talk 1580 wishes you and yours joy, peace, and prosperity. As we celebrate with family and friends, we're already looking forward to an exciting first quarter, packed with must-attend events to kick off the new year just right. In January, join us for our inaugural Brotherhood Brunch, bringing together community leaders, change makers, and everyday people for inspiration and connection. February means it's time for our signature Black History Month luncheon, a powerful celebration you won't want to miss. And in March, Women's History Month, we're once again hosting our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium and Luncheon, addressing the issues that matter most inside our community. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, happy holidays. Stay tuned for more details on these incredible upcoming events. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice, your community, your power.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textingterms.us. Texting enrolls you for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply or price stopped, opt out.
Hey man, how did the date go?
I had to cancel. I don't get paid until Friday.
You didn't know that you can get up to a $750 paycheck advance with the Current app?
Where was that information yesterday?
All you have to do is download the app, see if you qualify. $750. Boom.
You think I should call her back?
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
All right.
Need money before payday? Current has you covered. Set up an eligible direct deposit to see if you qualify for a paycheck advance of up to $750. Get ahead with Current. Text ACTION to 323232 to sign up today. That's ACTION to 323232. ACTION to 323232. ACTION to 323232.
Paycheck advance is offered by Fineco Advance LLC, a financial technology company, not an FDIC-insured bank. Eligibility and available amounts may vary and are subject to change at any time. For full terms and conditions, visit current.com or call 1-888-851-3177 for more information.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr.
I'm
Show.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest, Dr. Field De Silva, our regular contributor on Worldwide, Field De Silva, and Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, inventor of the email, PhD from MIT, extraordinary mind, and a major contributor to civilization. Let's just be candid about it. I want to cut right to the chase because I do want to get to Dr. Shiva's solutions for delivering real health. But I want to comment by just saying this very quickly. The poor are getting hammered under Trump, and the ultra-rich are getting richer. But it wasn't much better under Democrats, from my perspective. The fact that you can work 1, 2, or 3 jobs in America and you still need affordable care because you can't afford affordable care at the end of 1, 2, or 3 jobs is a Democratic Party problem. If the market could provide high-quality health care for all Americans, it would have by now. We've practiced in this experiment enough with it. We need something to undergird it. Dr. Shiva has some solutions for delivering real health. Dr. Shiva, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and PL. Of course, welcome forward, Dr. Shiva. We have about 8 minutes before we come forward and the top of our show. Please,
Jesse, I think one thing I want to say at the outset is, when I was at MIT in when I came there in 1981, you may remember that Reagan was in office and there were massive cuts taking place and a rollback of a lot of the gains that took place in the 60s and 70s. Your dad was running for office at that time. In 84, it was him against Walter Mondale on the Democrat side. And your dad had a philosophy of bottoms-up movements and people power. In many ways, the establishment of the Democratic Party didn't follow through on your dad's vision, in my view. But I was truly inspired by his ideas. And, we built a global movement called Truth, Freedom, Health. And it's really about empowering people to think bottoms up, which was sort of what your dad put forward. He was one of the early agents of this. So I never lost that idea. I just want to let you know. And we did a lot of campus activities.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah. But this is where the real solution is going to come from. The existing systems are massively corrupt. They're massively entrenched to the extent that, I'm running for Senate here. You're running for Congress. We get in my view, the best we can do is to use those platforms to expose this corruption and provide solutions, which can only come from below. So to people listening to this, Hippocrates said, "He who is not his own doctor is a fool." Now, this may seem like a tall order, but we have immense opportunities now for the individual to actually take control of their health. The reality is, even the medical doctor that you go see is highly limited in what they can do. They're part of an entrenched system. The solutions that they offer, in many ways, can actually end up killing you or getting you into a worse situation. And this needs to be understood, because what's happened is the academic model of research, which is very influenced by getting grants and getting grants and getting grants. So tenured professors who do biological sciences, they're not concerned about solving or treating or finding a cure to something. They're concerned about getting their next grant money. And I can give you many examples. We could do a whole show on this. But trust me,
I look forward to it.
We should talk about that. And the academic way that funding goes into funding any of these diseases is a collusion between the heads of departments of major academic institutions. They also sit on the board, those same guys, those professors, on the board of Big Pharma, and they also make the NIH decisions, right? So we're never going to see major revolutionary solutions coming out of this entrenched culture. However, there is a lot of hope when you start considering the former ways that if the individual can say, okay, I have to take accountability for my health. To do that, that's a preventative model. And if I go see my doctor, I need to recognize that I'm entering the wartime medical model. That is for crisis care. Okay? So the individual, and I think this can only happen through education. People like us doing these things, reaching out to people, you need a movement to do this. It's not going to come top down at all. So that's one thing that we have built. We built a movement called Truth, Freedom, Health. We go educate people. A lot of nurses come to our movement because they see the problem in the existing health. They're actually activist nurses because they're in the trenches and they see the egomaniacal situations they deal with the hierarchy in hospitals, and they're having to fill in the gaps. So nurses are a great group for this bottoms-up movement, and we've seen it in our own systems health program. But the individual must take accountability for their health. This is where it has to start. And to do that, it has to come with education. But the education must come recognizing that the body is a system. The ankle bone's connected to the foot bone. You can't be eating garbage and then trying to think you're going to be healthy, okay? You can't not do exercise and think you're going to be healthy. So it's a fundamental systems model that must be taught. And that's not being taught at all. To the extent that this quote unquote Maha movement talks about it, they have no interest in actually doing that. Again, their goal is to consolidate pharma's power. So one of the important solutions is education, the individual taking accountability. But getting back to the GPOs, the 1987 law that was passed, just to be specific, it's really an anodyne term, quite ironic. Congress called it the anti-kickback statute, okay? And in that anti-kickback statute was given the safe harbor for GPOs to do kickbacks. That needs to be rolled back.
Wow.
Okay. It's quite amazing how these politicians did it. They called it the Anti-Kickback Act, but there's a nice carve out so GPOs can do kickbacks.
Or kickbacks.
Yes. Right. So this is, I mean, Trump is a master of this, right? He'll tell you he's going to do this, but he's actually doing something else. Sleight of hand. So the Anti-Kickback Act, that safe harbor provision, must be removed. We need to educate people on a systems approach to health. Now, we've built an entire curriculum and made it very, very accessible to people. And that can be spread broadly. The medical...
Dr. Ayyadurai, just before we move past that point, how can we get that information from you? Can you share with our listeners how they can learn more about that before?
Yes. So people can go to truthfreedomhealth.com. We created a whole...
Say it slowly.
Truthfreedomhealth.com. And what we've done is, when I did research, Jesse, on looking at the ancient systems of medicine after I finished my PhD, what I found was these ancient systems of medicines actually looked at the body as an engineering system. What happened was the woo-woo people like Deepak Chopra, all these people, they made a lot of profit by putting this into a very, they built an aura around these ancient systems of medicine. So I uncovered these ancient systems of medicine were actually engineering systems, and you could educate people anywhere on this. So we created an entire course called Get Off the Plantation. It's free, okay? So people should go there. It's their first step, and they can go as many levels as they want. But that's one thing, to teach people to take a systems approach to the body. That's the first step. The other piece of this is the opportunity in the medical training itself. You know, when an MD comes out of school right now, they got a lot of loans. And if they try to start their own practice to actually help people, that's all dead right now. There's no way a single practitioner who wants to do family medicine can even survive. So they're forced to go join big hospitals. You see? So what's happening is everything has moved, even a noble person who wants to serve in medicine, to go big. And when you go big, you never have these interactions one-on-one, because health actually emerges between the patient and the doctor in a collaborative relationship. It's not a top-down model. So,
Dr. Shiva,
yeah.
I'm going to have you back on, because not only do I want to finish this conversation, I want to have you on to talk about your advocacy, your political work, and the campaign that you are mounting, which is, yes, obviously to win, but also to educate the American people. PL, I am particularly honored that Dr. DeShiva is our very special guest and that both of you have joined me on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, there will be more on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I want to thank our very special guest, PL De Silva, as well as Dr. Ayyadurai, MIT, PhD. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Be the light. Thank you.
Yes.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Chicago's budget fight is escalating. 27 aldermen are pushing a rival plan that scraps Black Mayor Brandon Johnson's corporate head tax, but raises fees for trash pickup, liquor sales, and Uber and Lyft rides.
We simply cannot risk a shutdown and put the city's financial stability at risk.
Johnson is not on board, and the city risks a shutdown without a budget by year's end. Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is pushing the LA City Council to approve a $4.4 million boost for the LAPD this week to avoid a hiring freeze. She says the funds are needed to hold January's academy class and keep plans to hire 410 officers for the 2025 fiscal year on track. And Michael Jordan's 23XI racing team has settled its antitrust lawsuit with NASCAR. Jordan and co-owner Denny Hamlin had accused NASCAR of operating like a monopoly and restricting team revenue under its new payout deal. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Dodgers manager Dave Roberts was among a select group of people who was asked to speak with UCLA's new football coach Bob Chesney during the interview process. Roberts, a UCLA graduate, had 3 phone conversations with Chesney and exchanged numerous text messages with him. Chesney was introduced as UCLA's new coach on Tuesday. Chesney won't start his new job until he completes his season with James Madison University. James Madison has a first-round playoff game at Oregon on December 20th. By the way, Roberts, the only African-American manager in Major League Baseball, graduated from UCLA in 1995 with a BA degree in history. HBCU Morehouse College in Atlanta is looking for a new head football coach. Former NFL wide receiver Terrence Mathis was fired after 2 seasons. Mathis, who played 13 years in the NFL, was 4-16 at Morehouse. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This holiday season, KBLA Talk 1580 wishes you and yours joy, peace, and prosperity. As we celebrate with family and friends, we're already looking forward to an exciting first quarter, packed with must-attend events to kick off the new year just right. In January, join us for our inaugural Brotherhood Brunch, bringing together community leaders, change makers, and everyday people for inspiration and connection. February means it's time for our signature Black History Month luncheon, a powerful celebration you won't want to miss. And in March, Women's History Month, we're once again hosting our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium and Luncheon, addressing the issues that matter most inside our community. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, happy holidays. Stay tuned for more details on these incredible upcoming events. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice, your community, your power.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, oh, come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We are now in the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. And I want my little friend in Chicago, Mason. I know you're listening to me, Mason. Johnny Mack is one of your favorite contributors, and he certainly is one of mine. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Dr. Johnny Mack, it's so glad to hear your voice and to have you here. Johnny, welcome forward to the show.
Hi, Jesse. Good to be here.
Johnny, I just had an amazing conversation on Worldwide with P.L. De Silva and Dr. Ayyadurai, who's the inventor of the email. And I was reflecting upon our desire to provide health care for all Americans. I do know that some of these benefits were at the center of what Martin Luther King Jr. was fighting for with the sanitation workers, that, quite frankly, sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee are still fighting for. So I thought in this moment that I would reflect with you upon a speech that Dr. King delivered on April 3rd, 1968, when he said these words: "If I were standing at the beginning of time with the possibility of taking a kind and general and panoramic view of the whole of human history up to now, and the Almighty said to me, 'Martin Luther King, which age would you like to live in?' I would take my mental flight by Egypt, and I would watch God's children in their magnificent trek from the dark dungeons of Egypt through, or rather across the Red Sea, through the wilderness and on toward the Promised Land, and in spite of its magnificence, I wouldn't stop there. I would move on by Greece and take my mind to Mount Olympus, and I would see Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Euripides, and Aristophanes assembled around the Parthenon, and I would watch them around the Parthenon as they discussed the great and eternal issues of reality, but I wouldn't stop there. I would go on even to the great heyday of the Roman Empire, and I would see developments around there through various emperors and leaders, but I wouldn't stop there. I would even come up to the day of the Renaissance and get a quick picture of all that the Renaissance did for the cultural and aesthetic life of man, but I would not stop there. I would even go by way of the man for whom I am named at his habitat. And I would watch Martin Luther as he tacked his 95 Theses on the door at the church at Wittenberg, but I wouldn't stop there. I would come up to 1863 and watch a vacillating president by the name of Abraham Lincoln finally come to the conclusion that he had to sign the Emancipation Proclamation, but I wouldn't stop there. And I'd even come up to the 30s and see a man grappling with the problems of the bankruptcy of his nation and come with an eloquent cry that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. But I wouldn't stop there. Strangely enough, I would turn to the Almighty and say, if you allow me to live just a few years in the second half of the 20th century, I'd be happy. And that's a strange statement to make because the world is all messed up. The nation is sick. Trouble is in the land. Confusion all around. That's a strange statement. But I know somehow that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. And I see God working in this period of the 20th century in a way that men in some strange way are actually responding. Johnny Mack, I know that this is a deeply troubling reflection because 24 hours later, Martin Luther King Jr. would be tragically shot and killed, assassinated. But he chose this time and this moment to reflect upon all of human history, all of the civilizations through human history, to say there's nothing like the present. Dr. Mack.
And just imagine, Jesse, as I listen to you recount as King had a trek through the centuries of man's social change and human development. And for him, the 20th century, of course, was the apex of that human development. And somehow King thought that his time was that time in which we truly had the enlightenment, a carefully chosen word, to take seriously the meaning of who and what we are, particularly as it's articulated in the founding documents of the United States. I don't think King could have possibly imagined where we are today, some 60 or so years later. You know, he talked about the arc of the universe being long and bending toward justice. And we've talked about that arc and its apogee could be heightened. In other words, the arc shortened if we would only grab hold of it and pull it. And I think King thought that that's where we were headed even before the end of that century, of the 20th century. But look where we are, some 25 years after the end of the 20th century. Arguably, we're worse off today than we were at the time that King gave that speech, and of course, his Vietnam speech. And so we are faced with what King called difficult days ahead, because we haven't seen the end of where things are headed.
I am struck by that, and hear from you that things are worse than they were at the hour of when Martin Luther King Jr. brought himself into the present. But also, before we come forward, I wanted to say that in a profound way, we could take the same trek over the last 6 decades and agree that in the present, to be in time over time, which I learned from you, there is no better time than the present. There's no better time than the Democratic and Republican primary processes and the midterms to respond in real time to what we are watching and listening to. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are in the World House with Johnny Mack. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Nugget Bills, nuggets all the way.
Hi, I'm Kylie.
I'm John.
And I'm Garrison.
And a little thing we love about the 30-count Chick-fil-A nuggets
is sharing them when we cut down the Christmas tree.
We will pack the car with gifts. And of course, we go and pick up our family's favorite nuggets.
Every nugget is tasty times quadrillion.
And we get all the sides.
Yeah, the ooey gooey mac and cheese is a big hit.
Share the nuggets, share the joy. Order the 30-count Chick-fil-A nuggets on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
I got the champagne. Everybody's glass.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates our own Keith Underwood, host of the weekend entertainment show Black in the Green Room, on his recent honor at the annual National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Awards. Keith received a first place award presented by the Los Angeles Press Club for his entertainment reporting, and we couldn't be prouder. Congratulations, Keith, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt?
With Civic Tax Relief, they were able to save me upwards of $80,000 that I would have had to pay had I not reached out to them.
Get ready for a toll-free hotline. Take advantage of new IRS tax forgiveness programs that may protect you from IRS collection agencies.
I owe the IRS $37,000.
They have the power to garnish your wages, put liens on your property, and levy your bank account. Civic Tax Relief can help protect you from the IRS.
Civic Tax Relief basically represented me against the IRS. By the time everything was completed, I didn't owe the IRS anything.
Find out about the Fresh Start program that is now available through Civic Tax Relief. Civic Tax Relief's special tax hotline can help you discover all the relief programs available for free.
I would recommend anyone who has a tax problem to contact Civic Tax Relief.
Just call 800-285-3500, 800-285-3500. Don't wait. Call now. 800-285-3500, 800-285-3500.
With the new IHOP value menu, $6 is all it takes to go to your happy plates, where stacks of pancakes with bacon and eggs are just $6 every day. French toast, sausage, and eggs are, you guessed it, $6. And fluffy omelets come with a side of pancakes and only cost $6. Go to your happy plates every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take DayQuil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the DayQuil.
Undo your flu symptoms with DayQuil Intense Flu. DayQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
DayQuil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me.
Jesse,
Come
you
on
come
and
forward.
listen to me.
Just Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. This is the World House with Johnny Mack. Johnny Mack, the world, Dr. King said 60 years ago, was all messed up. Now, I just have to believe that if we pump the brakes for a moment, the world today is all messed up. Johnny, is there a way for us to straighten things out, to unmess it up?
According to King, I think so. According to King, if we would only commit ourselves to a certain fundamental set of values about who and what we are as humanity, we could right the wrongs of the world and make it a hopeful, peaceful, just place. And he believed in ultimately the what's the right word, Jesse? He believed that fundamentally humans are good.
Yeah, they were decent, that they were right,
Decent,
that they dignified, that they were capable of some unbelievable accomplishments together through love, through mercy, through forgiveness.
And so that raises the question, was he wrong? Was he wrong about his belief in who we are as creatures made by God? And, that suggests that if he was wrong, God is wrong. And I don't think that King would agree with God being wrong. And therefore, he could not be wrong. That we've been made in the image of God. And that blueprint provides us with the wherewithal to make the world a better place. And so the answer to your question is, there is hope. I mean, we can do that. We can do this. We have to commit ourselves to it.
Johnny, in real time, I feel like right here on KBLA, we're the only people in the whole world having this conversation. I don't see evangelicals having this conversation. My ears are pretty much perked up to MSNBC, CNN. I'll be changing between the stations when I stop at Fox, and then I'll keep it moving. But I'm paying attention to what's going on here, Johnny, and the capacity of the capacity of our people to love, to forgive, to strive for not only a higher power, but a higher level of existence. I don't feel it resonating in the sphere of energy. I hear more policy prescriptions. I hear fixing little problems, but there are so many more fundamental issues that even the messengers of hope themselves are lost. The message is lost in who delivers the message. No matter how imperfect the messenger is, people don't want to hear it. And so I'm wondering, Johnny, had Dr. King reached a crisis even within himself on whether he himself might have even been losing confidence in his own thinking on the subject matter?
Well, I certainly can't be sure of that, but I do think that King, he was an idealist and a realist at the same time, this master of the dialectic, always believing in the ideal, but always having his feet firmly fixed on terra firma, not being so otherworldly that he could not appreciate this world's challenges and its realities. So did he doubt? Many times, of course, he's written about it, I should say, his doubts. But he always came back to that internal turmoil, that core within himself, that belief that we are ultimately made in God's image and that we have the capacity within ourselves. So while he might doubt himself, I don't think he doubted what humans can do if we only decide and be committed to those fundamental values of our human dignity and worth.
Johnny, I think that obviously Dr. King would be a supporter of the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, but I think he would be raising the question, why is there hunger in the first place?
Yeah.
He would, I believe, advocate and be supportive of the Affordable Care Act. But then I think he would be asking, how is it that a man or a woman can work 1, 2, or 3 jobs and at the end of 3 jobs still not be able to provide health care and or food on their table at the same time? What kind of system produces beggars or produces people that need these kinds and forms of assistance who are not sitting around lazy, but are working every single day? They are barbers and beauticians who need the Affordable Care Act. They're cutting hair all day long. And at the end of cutting hair all day long, they're heading to another job. And that job helps pay the bills of the shop where they're cutting hair or the chair that they are renting from the shop that they're renting from. They're trying to make ends meet. And yet they still, at the end of the second job, need the Supplemental Nutrition and Assistance Program. And some of them are too proud to tell you they're on stamps, that they need the EBT, that they need the benefit in the first place. Dr. King would be going to the root of a civilizational crisis where we just can't see what our neighbor is going through. And if we do see it, we still aren't doing anything about it.
And just think about it, Jesse. I think you've quoted, we've talked about this number of persons who rely upon the Affordable Care Act. I think it's 24 million.
44.
24 million.
44.
44 million. 44. But Jesse, think about this. The point you just made. Can you imagine those 44 million people saying to themselves and to the nation, okay, we've gone this far, but we will go no further. Can you imagine those 44 million people? I know women and children, men, various age groups, but imagine that mass of people organizing and mobilizing in every city around the country, every major city. Let's say the 44 million chose 12 cities around the country and said, these cities won't operate. They will not move forward until this issue is addressed. What kind of change do you think, Jesse, we'd have regarding the Affordable Care Act and every other act that affects the lives, everyday lives of ordinary citizens?
If the American people reached that kind of spiritual unity,
yes, sir,
on that value,
yes, sir,
the change would be almost instant.
No, not almost. Drop the almost.
Okay. It would be instant. I mean, if
would be
350 million people coalesced in the realm of spirit,
yeah,
on such a value that important at the same time,
yeah,
the government itself could not survive.
So what is it that prevents that kind of mobilization and organization? What is it that causes people to sit and wait for somebody else to decide what kind of life they will have, what type of society they will live in? What is it that causes us to wait on somebody else to bring us into the kind of world that we say we want to live in? If it's that simple and that easy.
Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai in the last hour said that, for example, in the realm of healthcare, that we need a crisis to fix a problem, as opposed to looking at other systems of medicine that looked in the direction of prevention. That is, he talked about Florence Nightingale and the system of healthcare delivery in the United States under our economic system. It waits for a crisis in the human form, and then you're pumped with all kinds of medicine and things along those lines, because the example that he used was it came into existence to put a soldier and repair a soldier and put them back on the battlefield. It never was designed to sustain a life from womb to tomb, which of course deals, Johnny, with the quality of that life. He says our healthcare system has always been reactionary, and by definition, under those circumstances, it never delivers high quality or equal high quality care from womb to tomb. So I'm thinking in this moment, with a system that takes into account, one, spiritually, that we are all children of God, that when Johnny Mack gets sick or when Jesse Jackson Jr. gets sick, it will not be occurring on the same day. Your illness may be different than mine, but when I do get sick or when you do get sick, the highest form of care must be available to you either on that day or having been provided over a period of time so that it is prevented in the first place. I'm thinking that Dr. King gave that level of thought, the same level of thought that Dr. Shiva gave in the first hour.
I think you're right, Jesse. And recall that Dr. Shiva said that health is a system approach, right? Yes. Not a crises approach. And think about this. Why a crises approach? What is it about a crises approach? What leads up to the crisis? People are making money off of crises. Think about war, the ultimate crises. War is about money making. It's about power more than it is about the sheer brute force of physical disagreements. It's about power struggles, creating crises where people create money for themselves, riches and power for themselves. And so one might think healthcare follows that same logic.
Johnny J. Mack is a social entrepreneur and scholar practitioner with expertise in subject areas of peace, conflict, and social change movements. He has traveled extensively throughout the Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, working in the fields of peace, development, conflict, and nonviolent social change. Dr. Mack's seminal work, After Confrontation, Then What?, challenges the putative logic of nonviolent social change theory and practice. Particularly, he re-articulates nonviolence beyond the traditional understanding of nonviolent struggle as principally nonviolent resistance. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We are in the World House every Thursday with Dr. Johnny Mack, whose contribution to our thinking is, well, it is at another level of profundity. More when we come forward on the KBLA Talk 1580, the World House with Johnny Mack.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Police have identified 48-year-old Jacob Bard as the suspect in the Kentucky State University shooting. He's charged with murder and assault after a 19-year-old was killed and another student critically injured near a residence hall Tuesday.
Our investigation has determined that Mr. Bard is a parent of a Kentucky State University student.
The HBCU has suspended all classes and activities for the rest of the week. The Justice Department is suing Minneapolis Public Schools, alleging the district gave hiring and benefits preferences to underrepresented teachers and members of the Black Men Teach Fellows. The DOJ says that violates Title VII. MPS is not commenting on the lawsuit. And singer SZA is calling out ICE for using her song in a video, calling it rage baiting and criticizing the White House for using artists without permission. Kenny Loggins and others have raised similar complaints about Trump-era videos using their music without approval. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Dodgers manager Dave Roberts was among a select group of people who was asked to speak with UCLA's new football coach Bob Chesney during the interview process. Roberts, a UCLA graduate, had 3 phone conversations with Chesney and exchanged numerous text messages with him. Chesney was introduced as UCLA's new coach on Tuesday. Chesney won't start his new job until he completes his season with James Madison University. James Madison has a first-round playoff game at Oregon on December 20th. By the way, Roberts, the only African-American manager in Major League Baseball, graduated from UCLA in 1995 with a BA degree in history. HBCU Morehouse College in Atlanta is looking for a new head football coach. Former NFL wide receiver Terrence Mathis was fired after 2 seasons. Mathis, who played 13 years in the NFL, was 4-16 at Morehouse. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
This holiday season, KBLA Talk 1580 wishes you and yours joy, peace, and prosperity. As we celebrate with family and friends, we're already looking forward to an exciting first quarter, packed with must-attend events to kick off the new year just right. In January, join us for our inaugural Brotherhood Brunch, bringing together community leaders, change makers, and everyday people for inspiration and connection. February means it's time for our signature Black History Month luncheon, a powerful celebration you won't want to miss. And in March, Women's History Month, we're once again hosting our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium and Luncheon, addressing the issues that matter most inside our community. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, happy holidays. Stay tuned for more details on these incredible upcoming events. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice, your community, your power. KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates Malik Books on celebrating 35 years in business.
It's a celebration.
Malik Books proudly houses one of the largest African American and diverse children's books in the nation. This is the perfect time to pick up holiday reads, meaningful gifts, and to support literacy in our community. For 35 years, Malik Books has stood strong in the Black Book Revolution, uplifting stories that heal, inspire, and transform, one reader at a time. Change your thoughts, change your life. Books are the gift that keeps giving. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, congratulations to Malik Books on 35 years of culture, pride, and community.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the Southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to
You're on the world now, Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk.
Come on and listen to me.
1580. Dr. Mack's research includes extensive study of Martin Luther King Jr.'s logic of nonviolence and the U.S. Civil Rights Movement. He explicates Dr. King's logic of nonviolence using King's call to restructure the social edifice, and particularly its triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism, with a revolution of values that is effected through peaceable power. This framework articulates Dr. King's peaceable power as direct, structural, and cultural nonviolence, with correlating strategic, conscientious, and cultural action correlates. Mack thus argues nonviolence is a metalogic with direct, structural, and cultural forms that counterpose Johann Galtung's seminal conflict and violence triangles. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, sir. Great to
Dr.
be
Mack,
here.
before we continue our conversation, how can we support your work?
At Johnny, excuse me, at the worldhouseproject.org. That is www.theworldhouseproject.org.
All one word, by the way. Dr. Mack, I stumbled on something yesterday in a conversation that I wanted to bring forward to our conversation. When Martin Luther King Jr. delivered the I Have a Dream speech in 1963, the U.S. military budget was $35.6 billion or thereabouts. I might be $1 or $2 off. But when we deal with these kinds of numbers, what's $1 or $2? By 1968, when he's killed, the military budget per annum was $75.8 billion. Today, under Donald Trump, the military budget in the United States per annum is now $1 trillion. And I realize that Dr. King did not cuss very often, but he would certainly have no problem saying WTF. If I take $1 trillion and I divide it by all 50 states, that's about $20 billion per state. And maybe in more than 3/4 of the states, a significant number of problems evaporate overnight if we study war no more for 1 year. Just for 1 year, if we study war no more. Dr. King's metalogic, is it something that can be quantified in our national treasury to combat the 3 evils of militarism, racism, and poverty? Can we quantify it by restructuring the social edifice with a check that does come back marked sufficient funds?
Well, mind you, Jesse, that a budget is based upon certain assumptions, right? And a nation's budget is based upon not only assumptions, but its basic values and principles. And the answer to your question is quite simple. If we want values that uplift humanity, that uplift the human spirit, that provide for the basic needs of every boy and girl, man and woman, that creates a just and peaceful world, it's easily quantified. You simply identify those things that uplift us, that create opportunities for us, that give us an environment in which to realize our greatest potential. I mean, that's not rocket science. The problem is we have a set of values that don't do those very things. We have a set of values that divide us, not bring us together. A set of values that puts us in competition with each other and with others.
I'm thinking that this question of, and when I was in public life, question was always raised, how do we pay for these values? How do we pay for the dream of the society, Johnny, that you want to build, unless we look objectively at, and I think one of our contributors yesterday raised this question or raised this point, that the budget itself is a moral document.
Mm-hmm.
It is a moral document, that it does speak to our values as a nation. And a values conversation without an analysis of the budget is not a values conversation at all, because it has to be paid for.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you measure whether or not a parent, a single mother with children, or 2 parents are showing love, care, and concern for their children, but for the budget priorities of the household? Shelter, food, education, heat in the wintertime, where we can, air conditioning in the summertime. How that family distributes its budget over time is a factor in the value system that drives that household. We cannot allow dad to go gambling and mama to go gambling or shopping, or dad to go buy shoes and gym shoes and end up with a gym shoe collection, and something as basic as the education of the children in the household is secondary to the things mama and daddy still want personally with kids who are in this household who are going without. So we measure the value of the family by what the family is willing to put into it, and it's quantified.
That's it.
And that doesn't mean that you're a trillionaire putting something into a house. It may be a mother with 2 pork chops and 5 children. She does not conclude she has 3 excess children. She takes 2 pork chops, she adds some gravy, some peas, some rice to it, and a miracle occurs. We go to the capacity to feed all of the children with just 2 pork chops because a mother has a way of making a way. That is reflected in her value system. That seems to me, Johnny, to be the crux of the issue here.
I think it is. And think about this, though. While the values of the parents, that mother and that father, drive the household budget in the decision making, the lives of the children that you just talked about is what sets the tone, creates the environment for those values. So how does that then apply to the state? What is it and who is it that drives the values of the national budget? It should be the people. Once again, Jesse, if the people say this far, no further, we've had enough. If the 44 million simply organize and mobilize themselves, that $1 trillion would also be rebudgeted, reallocated, redistributed in ways that would meet the needs of every man and woman, boy and girl. Again, it's not rocket science.
Johnny, I know we're fighting to end tyranny. I know we're fighting to save democracy. I know we're fighting authoritarianism. I know we're fighting corruption. I know we're fighting all things Donald Trump, but I don't hear anything or anyone fighting for a budget that reflects the values that we're talking about. We're fighting against some concepts that we learned in higher education that are clearly concepts and antithetical to the idea of democracy. I get it. But I'm also at the same time saying I'm equally as concerned that that we're not paying for the values by fighting for a correct budget. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More with Johnny Mack when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're an adult in need of an accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You could earn one for free in as few as 5 months, online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach, plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website at lapl.org/diploma. That's lapl.org/diploma.
Kohl's Customer Appreciation Event is here, right in time for the gift exchange. Even though everyone pretends gifting isn't a competition, it kinda is. At Kohl's, save on gifts everyone will fight over. From sweaters and flannels to air fryers, toaster ovens, and more. Because deep down, the gift exchange isn't just about giving. It's also about winning. Shop Kohl's and save on top gifts now. Select styles, some exclusions apply. Offers end December 14th. See store or kohls.com for details.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. Spirits and beer, thousands of wines. Guides in the know and prices so low. It just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
With curbside pickup and delivery available, you'll always find what you love only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the World House on KBLA with Dr. Johnny Mack. Johnny is our very special contributor on the World House, where we analyze and think through Dr. King's theology, philosophy, and therefore actions in the present. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. It's good to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you, Dr. Mack. Let me read something very quickly. Where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. It's a famous biblical quote from Jesus Christ in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21, meaning that whatever you value most, your treasure, is where your true focus, desires, and emotions, your heart, will naturally gravitate, encouraging people to invest in eternal spiritual riches rather than fleeting earthly possessions for lasting fulfillment. Meaning and interpretation. The phrase highlights that your actions and where you put your time, energy, and resources, your treasure, shows what truly matters to you. Earthly versus eternal. Jesus contrasts storing up temporary riches on earth, which can be lost, with storing up treasure in heaven, spiritual wealth, good deeds, faith, which is secure and brings true peace. Focus and direction. If your focus is on worldly things, your heart is tied to the temporary. Shifting your focus to God and eternal things aligns your heart with lasting purpose. And finally, self-examination. It serves as a prompt for self-reflection to check if your financial and life choices reflect your spiritual goals. Johnny, that's the breakdown of Matthew chapter 6, verse 21. Dr. King, Johnny, had to be right there in that space.
Yeah. As a man of faith, Dr. King's whole logic of nonviolence is, as you say, deeply wrapped in this idea of where our money is, there will our hearts be also. And where our hearts are, there will our money be. And so there's another biblical text, Jesse, as a man thinketh, right?
Yes,
You know, we are creatures that move toward what we think about. The Greek word for that, Jesse, is teleological, or at least the Greek root of the word is teleological, telos. We get the word telescope. So human beings are teleological in nature. That means we move toward what we think about. And, the system has learned that well. It is why we have the logarithms that we have in today's social media, because the people who design those logarithms understand that we human beings move toward what we think about. And so, Jesse, the point is this: they make sure we're thinking about those things that make money, not for you and me, not for the user of those technologies, but for the owners of those technologies. That's a very fundamental and simple idea. The biblical quotes that we've been sharing here, they're basically the same notion. How we think about ourselves in life determines how we'll behave, how we'll act. And so if we can change, Jesse, if we can change the way we think, then we can change the way we act. Once again, those who write those algorithms in today's AI understand that. And so they work diligently at changing the way we think so that we will change the way we act. And so we will act in accordance with their wishes and not our own.
Johnny, I don't think it gets any clearer than that during this holiday season. Johnny, once again, how can we support your work?
Go to the World House Project, THEWRLD, HOUSE project.org, theworldhouseproject.org. You can learn about our work, you can support our work, and you can join a global network of individuals, groups, and organizations working toward the very thing that we've been talking about, Jesse, and that's making the world a better place.
I'm particularly excited about that. And I also want to remind our listeners, before Johnny gives us his word of hope, that you should keep KBLA under your Christmas tree during this holiday season. There are a number of corporations that we are not shopping with during the holiday season, and that should leave us with a little bit more treasury, and we should be able to direct some of our treasury to where our heart really is. And if you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580 from 6 in the morning to late at night, all the way through Zoe's show and D.L. Hughley, you know right here on this station, you are getting the truth. Well, the truth does cost. We bring exciting content from Dominique DePrima through, of course, our owner, Tavis Smiley, and his extraordinary show and decades of history in radio, and our little show, the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, 12 to 2 every day in Los Angeles, 2 to 4 in Central Time, and 3 to 5 on the East Coast. Put KBLA Talk 1580 under your Christmas tree. Johnny Mac, we have 3 minutes for your word of hope.
Just before I came on our show today, I'd spent the better part of 3.5, almost 4 hours in a webinar with people from all over the globe. These people, they were scholars, they were academicians, they were activists. These people are having a similar conversation that you and I just had. And so when we talk about, who's actually talking about these things, who's talking about the values that drive our budget, who's talking about the values that determine whether we go to war or not, who's talking about the values that determines whether we have equal opportunities and employment opportunities and educational opportunities. And I find in my work, Jesse, that there is a very large number of people, not only here in the US, but around the globe, who have come to realize that it is up to us to make the change that we want. The question is, how do we platform them? How do we spotlight them? And more importantly, Jesse, our hope is that we can connect them so that 44 million that we talked about, if they could only be organized and mobilized, could make the change. And that's just here in the United States. Remember now, I said I came from a almost 4-hour webinar today where we had about 36 very capable and accomplished individuals representing very significant organizations having a very similar conversation. And so I am hopeful, and I encourage our listeners to get plugged into these kinds of organizations and opportunities.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I've been broadcasting live all week from Washington, D.C. At the conclusion of our show today, I'll be packing up the show, driving to Chicago, 12 hours, and be there on time for tomorrow's show, Fat Meat Fridays, with Gina Towns and our very special guests who will be contributing to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show tomorrow. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the World House with Johnny Mack on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward tomorrow on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.